NFL Week 12 is here, and today is a 2-for-1. We're going to do one show this week, so we're going to combine our regular Tuesday show with Inside Blitz, our Thursday show. We're going to start off with Ron and I, and then we're going to have Ted join in when he's available, and we're going to have some very interesting comments and interviews. He was in the locker room the last two games there, so he had some good stuff he was able to get from Barkley and Hurts and I forget who else, but that should be pretty good. How are you doing, Ron?
I'm doing great. Definitely stay tuned for that part. Hopefully, time permitting, I'm going to throw a little contenders or pretenders, a few teams that I want Cris and Ted to comment on. And everybody who's listening or watching live, stay tuned for that too, because we want your feedback on contenders and pretenders as well. And Cris, I'd love to redo week 12 over again, because it was a great week up until last night, but we're at week 13 now.
Are we on week 13?
Yep.
Oh. It does say week 13. You know what? I was oh well. I sent out week 12. And I'm going to have to change all that.
Yeah, you're in trouble now. But
Lucky
the week
13.
was good. Yeah. The only game I lost last week, I bet on Harbaugh last week on Monday. But unfortunately, I bet on the wrong Harbaugh. So that's the way it goes.
Well, one way or another, one of them was going to win. I wanted to also, I'm going to touch base on, I wanted to talk about just cash outs quickly. And I also wanted to bring up some things that you do when you start at a new shop. But you want to do that stuff now or later?
It's up to you. You want to do a quick recap first and then go right to your stuff?
Maybe I'll start off with this one just because I was having an exchange with a client this morning, and he didn't really have enough shops, and I'm trying to help him out. And I was looking at the shops that he had and suggesting the ones that he needed, and it's just a reminder that. One of the reasons why I like to do parlays and teasers, other than they benefit me by, borrowing value, so to speak, and I've been doing it well, is that it gives you cover with the books. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is when you can put parlays and teasers in, especially some of the ones that I do, to the average person that's evaluating an account, they love you. So that's another little side bonus on doing those types of bets. But when you're getting a new account, when you're getting in new shops, whatever you do, try to dumb it down for a period of time and not, make sure you're not chasing lines, make sure you're not, chasing steam. You're not, you're just not drawing attention to yourself with advantageous play or just getting the best of everything. Try to just basically, run out the clock, so to speak, like a Kansas City would do. It's important because they evaluate accounts, in the beginning. So you want to give them time to profile your account as nothing special, because account preservation is most important. And they're probably going to overreact. So if you do anything really smart, or if you're doing everything smart and they over-categorize you and give you lower limits and such, then that's going to be a downer. So you don't want to cause them to overreact in either direction, frankly. But just something that I wanted to bring up. Any thoughts on that, Ron?
Yeah, it makes sense to test the waters with a new book anyway. Just get familiar with their software, do different things, try one of this, try one of that, just to get your feet wet. And also so that you don't establish a pattern with a new book. I miss the days when 2 or 3 people would be betting with me. They'd call in bets to me and I would place them. And a lot of them liked teases. And I said, if you need to bring a tease out, bring it to me. I can possibly get you better teaser odds. And it looks good on my resume because I don't play teases and it throws people off. And I used to say, if you like favorites also, since I play more dogs than favorites, throw a few favorites my way as well. And now that I'm primarily just betting for myself, then I don't have that extra people that come in and muddle up the waters and stuff like that. So I think it's good advice all the time to kind of get your feet wet and do some things. And even when I do these like manipulated parlays or something like that, when I want to get some of my best bets to really good numbers, I'm not afraid to throw in like a half of the play or the quarter of the play at 2 or 3 sites just to give everybody a chance to see something different. So kind of along your lines.
I had to put up the barrier, otherwise Gizmo was going to bother me. The other thing I just wanted to quickly mention, typically, if you have a cash out option at these books, if you know what you're doing and you have the resources and the access to basically, make a move on your own, that's always going to be the better move. The cash out options are never in your favor, but I was talking with somebody about it this morning, and I just thought I'd mention it. A lot of people just don't have the resources to, hedge, or they may not have the knowledge base or have the ability to figure out the very best way to do it. So I wouldn't say cash out options are absolutely horrendous. I mean, they'll do in a pinch. And if you're, in a position to make a lot of money and you're not used to it, you're better off taking that than trying to figure it out on your own if you don't know what you're doing. So that's just a thought there. I take it you probably have never taken a cash out option, Ron?
If the cash out option, I've only done it when I've made a mistake. Now that a couple of them have a cash out option, I press the wrong button or whatever. If you do it immediately, you get your full bet back, but I haven't done it for any other reason. Never. I mean, I would look at other ways to try to do things rather than that.
Yeah, and I have to admit that's just that's kind of like being able to have a take back. I think I made a bet at one of the shops recently, and I looked in my pendings, and I could get my whole money back. And I'm like, oh, well, that's good. In case I have a mistake, then that would come in handy. So it's nice that they weren't even taking a commission on it. So there's another way that it might come in handy.
Yeah.
Okay, on to last week. How did last week go for you?
Again, very proud of myself and my patience. I had 2 major plays the week before. As everybody know, even though I don't always tell my plays around here, everybody pretty much knew that I had Pittsburgh and Cleveland game. I had Cleveland and I had Chicago. And essentially, those were my only 2 plays. I split a couple of other plays, but they were so much lower in value. And I split some of the plays that I made in August. So it was really a 2-horse deal. And that Chicago mini game was crazy. But really, situations matter. And the fact that Cleveland played Pittsburgh in that situation, with Pittsburgh in a short week off Baltimore, and Chicago having 3 home games versus mini 3 road games. Now, I expected Chicago to shore up their special teams. I could go an hour, Chris, on special teams. We don't have the time. But how do you get a punt blocked against Green Bay the week before, and the very first time you try a field goal, and the very first time you try a field goal, it's blocked again? I mean, Chicago tried every which way to get rid of, to lose that game, and eventually they did, but not by 3.5.
Yeah, that Pittsburgh game was no good for me. I knew it was a tough spot for them, but
divisional matchup. I think one of our listeners pointed that out too, is that you don't need as much time to prepare for divisional matchups.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a shame because Pittsburgh, just kind of shot themselves in the foot. I remember Tomlin made a coaching error too. I forget what that was, but he does it every now and then. And I think the announcers were even commenting on it, or somebody was bringing it up also. Just strange. So that started off the week in bad shape. I didn't learn anything from the game because I don't think Cleveland played well at all. So I don't think you can sit there and bump up their value. And as you mentioned, short week, sandwich game. Pittsburgh was in the game. It wasn't like they didn't, they no-showed.
I thought I had the cover all in hand. If Jameis Winston was going to make a mistake, which he did to put Pittsburgh in the game, then things could have got a little crazy. But I thought Cleveland, especially Myles Garrett, very personal game for him. I thought they were in.
Yeah, exactly. The Lions did exactly what I thought that they would do. I used them in all the contests, and even if I had to lay 7.5, I had a funny feeling that they're just that much better than some of these middle of the road teams.
Yeah, this is something I think I've learned, or we've learned from brainstorming over the last 3 years, is that there were situations that said Indy would catch Detroit napping, but it's that speeding train again. Why do you ever want to go against something that's going that fast and get in their way and get crushed by it? And I've learned there's one or two teams every year that you don't want to get in front of. And it was the Lions. And that was good enough for me to not even think about this game.
Well, we'll talk about that. Yeah, not much more to say about it.
Yeah.
Kansas City was a surprise that they just kind of went through the motions and almost went to overtime, for God's sakes. I had Kansas City in teasers. I had 4 games go south on me at the exact same time. Kansas City letting Carolina tie them was one of them. At least it didn't go all the way south. Bryce Young, what do you think? He did play much better again, right?
Yeah, the reset was good for him. It allowed him to kind of take a step back. And so I think this is good for his career. There's a possibility. Remember, it's a new coaching staff. They haven't had a lot of significant time off. I don't even know if they played a Thursday game. So they never even had a mini bye kind of thing. They just had to rely on one full bye. Kansas City, they're really not that good. When I say not that good of a team, they're one of the teams that can turn on the switch at the end of the year, especially if they give that week 18 bye again like they did last year. But right now, it's not working for them as far as being a top 3 team. They're 5th in my ratings.
They certainly are not that high in my ratings. Hold on, I'm just I forgot to download my spreadsheet on this computer. Yeah, they're not in my top 5 at all.
Yeah, I mean, they really, again, their power rating has barely moved all season for me. The most consistent team, maybe the most dependable team in terms of how I've been able to handicap them.
The Vikings did. I could have sworn on one of the shows I was on last week, I said this. I go, did I say something to the effect of Minnesota was basically in the exact same situation as they were the week before, where they, they're favored almost by a touchdown. There's no way you want to lay it. And they'll end up winning the game, but probably won't cover or something. And sure enough, that's what happened. That was just bad.
Yeah, Chicago was a better team and tried desperately to give that game away, and they did. Chicago is in one of those funk modes where anything that can go wrong at the end of the game will go wrong. And at the end, with an onside kick, they were able to prolong the game and make it a little bit nerve-wracking for me, because then Minnesota went down, and if they would have scored that touchdown, my Chicago bet would have been up for flames and would have been an undeserved loss. I mean, Chicago should have won the game, but we've seen this from bad teams. These teams that do not pay attention to special teams, it comes back to bite them in the end.
Yeah, that's for sure. I almost had an aneurysm when I saw that the game was tied. It just was frustrating. The Washington, there's a big mistake I made. I went a little heavy on Washington with 10-point teasers or money line parlays, and that bit me in the ass. I for the life of me, I cannot understand how they could come in and lose that game. It just befuddles me with all the injuries Dallas had and Washington with extra rest, coming off a loss, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Daniels is probably hurt more than we realize. He did do some running, but that team is nothing like it doesn't look like anything that resembles the team we saw the first half of the season. What do you think?
Well, we're going to talk about Green Bay later, but here was Washington's chance to exercise some demons. Get that? I mean, they're just had a terrible time against Dallas. They can't beat them when they need to. Kick them while they're down. Dallas was down and out. Dan Quinn was coming back to face his former team. Everything was in Washington's favor, but then they just played back down to earth, where maybe they were on too high of a pedestal. I didn't have anything on the game. I mean, I'm not going to play these kinds of games, 10.5 or whatever, but I'm shocked that Washington lost for the reasons you said. Dallas, what made Dallas even a viable option in this particular game? Again, there were special team stuff for both sides. It was kind of a sloppy game. I just don't know, but quietly Washington has lost 3 in a row. So right now, Washington's kind of trending back to where maybe their rightful place is. Maybe we were a little too high on them to begin with.
Yeah, I know I was. I'm just looking at my last 5 weeks here. Where the hell is Washington? Am I blind? Yeah, they're almost at the bottom last 5 weeks. And they've lost it. Oh,
yeah, there has been a trend with Cliff Kingsbury. So Roger astutely pointed that out at the end of seasons when he was with Arizona. Teams kind of figured him out.
Well, it wasn't just there; it was in college. When he coached in college, I think he went to 2 programs. Both programs had the same problem, and this is bizarre how the second half of his seasons are just going down the chute. Yeah.
Now, defensively, Washington has not been near my top group at all. And they still have some issues defensively. So at some point, some teams were going to score a lot of points on them. I just didn't know that it was going to be Dallas.
Yeah, so that was not pleasant this week. I actually laid -10 in the contest also, so a little frustrated with that. I still have Washington rated too high, though. Ugh.
I think it's a danger. I've always thought it's a danger laying a lot of points with teams that do not have shutdown defenses.
I agree, but the Lions don't have a shutdown defense either.
No, the Lions wish they had drafted Philadelphia's cornerbacks. Then we'd see a real difference. Then the Lions would be completely unbeatable because Cooper DeJean, who had a first-round grade on my board, is just tearing it up for Philly.
I have a barrier, and somehow he made it around the barrier. Tampa and the Giants, that was about what I expected. I expected Tampa to cover, and I didn't expect the Giants to do much. I got nothing else on that game.
I always say is the Giants are better off playing as a visitor than in front of their home fans, because when it gets ugly quick.
Well, that's one of the things that I worried about was they are a much better road team.
Yeah.
Tennessee and Houston, I took it in the hiney on that one too. Had Houston on the money line, and that was no good. Another botch kick. I can't complain about the botch kicks because 2 weeks ago, how many bad kicks did we see? I was on the right side of all those. And then this week, anything kick related went against me. So I had it coming. And that was just frustrating. Houston looked really, really off. And that's didn't they look off the week before?
They've looked off since week 1, to be honest. They were just bailed by teams like Tennessee and Indianapolis and Jacksonville in their division. This is they're 7-5, and they're kind of a weak 7-5, even though there are times that they play against the big boys fairly tough. They just came off a string of primetime appearances. A little bit of a letdown factor, even though it was a divisional game for Houston. I decided that Tennessee was likely the right side late, but for Houston, they're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to win that division, and maybe they'll catch fire. But we talked about this at the beginning of the year. There's tape on Stroud. They're playing a first place schedule. They're playing primetime games. They didn't play primetime games last year. It's catching up to them. The future is bright, but the present is average.
Denver, that got a little nerve-wracking at the end with the cover and
the 1 yard line.
I just can't believe it. They let themselves get in that shape, but they did what I expected them to do. Probably a little bit, still looking pretty good. I don't know. I think they're tied with Detroit at 9-3 against the spread for the season.
Yeah, they obviously they were a big overpick for me at the beginning of the year as far as season wins, but they're exceeding expectations. If you look at how Peyton runs his team, they run the ball. They're a diverse running team, and and even at New Orleans, they were good at stopping the run. The Saints fell off. They didn't stop the run once Peyton left the organization, but they stopped the run in Denver right now. Again, it's a 4th place schedule that they're playing. And my note said take Vegas if the line got to 7. So I'm happy the line didn't get to 7, because I would have considered it extra value to have a full 7 points with Vegas.
Yeah, that would have been hard to turn down. Arizona, I was very surprised that they know. I mean, I think Connor had like less than 30 yards rushing.
Bad day for him.
So now we've seen a couple of good games from Seattle. Are they back? Well, you know what? I forget where I put it. Who is the 3rd best team in the NFC?
The 3rd best team in the NFC, I would probably say Green Bay.
I think I filed something away.
All teams play this week, so I could look that up. I believe Green Bay is firmly the 3rd for me now.
I can't see who tweeted this out, but somebody notable was tweeting out their top in each conference. And they listed Detroit, Philadelphia, Seattle. And I kind of what the hell is this guy talking about? And then I started looking at it. Well, you got Atlanta, Minnesota, Green Bay, Washington. It's I mean, I guess it's not as idiotic as I reacted.
There's a bunch of teams clustered together, but I still have Green Bay a clear 3rd in the NFC, and probably Minnesota 4th in the NFC.
Well, if Seattle's defense can come back, I mean, let's not forget they finally had their bye week. So, as we always say, give them a little chance to reset and regroup, and they've been pretty good since. So, I just thought it was strange that Arizona did not fare better. that team is really strange. I'm surprised. You can't. I don't know how anybody can get a read on them.
Well, I think you've heard me say for weeks I can't get a read on maybe. I had no idea what to do with this game, so I left it alone and let them play. And now that the game is over, I still don't have any idea whether one team's better than the other.
San Francisco and Green Bay. It's been 6-7 weeks since we mentioned that San Francisco is not in the same elite category as they were, and it's obviously painfully apparent.
If I had to pick one mistake that I made last week, it's not taking Green Bay early in the week, because there seemed to be teams going in different directions. Now, I didn't have the crystal ball to absolutely know that Purdy wasn't going to play. So I kind of waited around, and then we heard the news, and then the line started moving. But even when it was first announced, you could have got Green Bay -3. Even Thursday and Friday, you could have got Green Bay -3. So if I had to pick one mistake that I made, that would have been the mistake. Not playing.
Yeah. But I still think that there's something wrong with Green Bay. I mean, I heard this morning that they're number one in the league, benefiting from turnovers. They've converted the most amount of points there. So that's, that's not. That's one way that they're getting points that they can't depend on.
Right.
We know Love and his interceptions and red zone performance. They've been opportunistic. I'm not so sure this team is as good as you think they are.
I'm going to, have a diversion here, but Chicago, they're 4-7. They're not very good. They have a +9 turnover ratio.
Oh my
Imagine what Chicago would be if they had a flat turnover ratio. So when you see something like that, you say, something, it's not going to turn around for Chicago. So you're looking for, unless you have a very careful quarterback, you're looking for teams like that might regress one way or another in turnovers, where you think, that's kind of unusual. Why are they this high at this moment?
Eagles, Rams. Another team that I've been nailing is that these Rams are not as good as people think they are, and they just seem to get way too much love every week. And the Eagles, they've definitely shown that they're here. They're the team that people thought that they were going to be.
Yeah. So this is a move I made that I do not regret. So, it's easy to hindsight saying, well, why did you do this? But I did it for a reason. You heard me say last week I had Philly +0.5 in the look-ahead line in August. And I was comfortable with that bet. But when Devontae Smith was announced out of the game, Philly and the Rams, I hedged a third of my play. And I have no regrets doing that, because Philly basically, they didn't have to pass because Barkley was so unbelievable in this particular game. But if they had to, there was no other reliable wide receiver other than Brown that they could really go to, because they use their tight ends for like short stuff, Goddard and so on, but they don't use them to stretch the field like in Arizona with McBride or San Francisco with Kittle and so on. So I was very comfortable hedging that part of my bet, and it just turns out that Philly exposed the Rams.
I mean, I was glad to see it, just because by my numbers, it wasn't even remotely close. I had the Rams rated much lower than everybody, apparently, and I've got Philadelphia pretty highly rated again. So last night went pretty much the way I expected it to. My model leaned Chargers. In fact, now looking at it, I could have made the case for actually playing the Chargers, but instead I just teased them both ways, and that fortunately won. But I kind of, Baltimore, I felt took the gas off the pedal and were kind of just going through the motions much of the game. I think they could have done a lot better than they did, even though it looked pretty easy for them. What do you think?
And the Chargers came out like I thought they would, firing on all cylinders. They couldn't sustain the lead, I think, partly because Baltimore is that good. They have a lot of talent. And then partly because when the Chargers lost Dobbins, they lost their running game. Edwards is that short yardage back. Baltimore knows him well. He was there. He wasn't going to get the job done, or at least I hoped he didn't, because I had a prop under on him. The problem is you have to rely on Quentin Johnson, and that's not a good receiver to rely on in press coverage. When teams like Baltimore play press coverage, Quentin's not going to get open, and when he gets open, he doesn't have the best hands in the world, as some of the funny Twitter pictures showed last night. So the Chargers were kind of behind the 8 ball when they lost Dobbins.
NFL points leader chart just scrolled across Twitter. Baltimore 364, Detroit 360.
Yeah, two prolific scoring teams. Philly's corners, what they do in the draft, or anybody who says the draft doesn't matter, well, the draft really matters, because Philly fixed a very weak link with Mitchell and with Cooper DeJean. Yep.
Anything else from last week? It wasn't. I didn't have a winning week.
No, I enjoyed the week, but I didn't enjoy Monday.
It could have been a colossal disaster, because it won the afternoon games in the evening game. But the early games were a disaster, because I had teasers with Washington and Houston. But I was supposed to fare worse, because Minnesota was a push or a loss, and I avoided that. I skipped the Patriots Dolphins, didn't I? What gives with the Patriots? It just seems like there was something off with them. They just literally were never in the game.
I thought they'd play better, but boy, just reminiscent of Tua when he's on, how many slant passes that he completed that went for extra yardage, because Miami is built so much for speed. I thought Drake May would do a little bit better. I was starting to buy into the fact that he could really stretch the field and do some things, but he's still a rookie, and it's still only his third start. And I think that came to fruition against Miami. I think I probably expected a 7-point game there, and I wouldn't have been shocked if New England would have pushed it a little better. So Miami having their way a little bit against New England was a little surprise to me as well.
Are you a believer in Miami being a decent team again?
We'll talk about that in Contender Pretender.
Okay.
You got another topic you were saving, or?
I'm just looking again, see, before we leave last week behind. I think that's about it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm concerned this week, as I'm a day late on my preparation, but I'm concerned this week that I won't have standout games in the NFL like I did the last couple of weeks. I'll probably have more games, but no 3 stars like I have the last couple of weeks. So it's kind of a note to myself to say this out loud, is to take some extra caution and kind of looking at the games and not trying to make something there that's not there, if that makes any sense.
Well, that makes perfect sense, because, once you get in the routine or the habit of betting, a certain range of games, or, when you are, not within that range or close to it, then you want to sit there and try to find more games.
Yeah.
And by the same token, I think we've done the same thing where we've said it, where I've got too many games, I got to weed some out. So, you have your comfort game, your comfort zone. And I think that's a bad idea to on all fronts, is to try to eliminate games or to add games. You go with the games that there are.
Yeah. We have a full slate this week, 16 games. So there's a lot more to manage. I have not done, as usual, I do my power rating stuff and situational stuff first, and then I do the matchup analysis. So it won't be till tomorrow that I do the matchup analysis. And that's when I'll start slotting games, because instead of just having 2 or 3 games and some real big ones, I have a feeling I'm going to have 5 or 6 games this week. I just want to make sure I'm, according to my metrics, that I'm going to pick the right ones.
Well, a year ago, the Bears went to Detroit and literally just handed Detroit the game at the end. They were up by 2 touchdowns, or was it more than 2 touchdowns? I mean, the Lions got a miracle victory against the Bears last year. So they're pretty darn dinged up this week. I don't have their injury report, but Deckers hasn't been playing. And the last time he didn't play was the 5 interception golf game. So he's pretty critical to that offensive line. And they've got a variety of other injuries.
Where would you have set this line? Because I'm really off on this line.
Oh, I think it's low.
Yeah. I set it at 13.5.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely low, but the Lions injuries are starting to pile up, frankly. We don't know who's going to play or not.
Yeah, I could give point counterpoint for each team. There's a general situational NFL situation that applies to Detroit that is really negative. The sample size is about 200, and if I could do the math, it's like a 39% again. So it favors Chicago. But I could see Chicago's mindset and the way they're going. I could see a real quit in this team in this game.
Yeah, I think it just, I think teams in their situation, if they can get a lucky break early, well, then they're gonna be engaged. Otherwise, they just pack it up. Yeah. And that's what happened last year. Is they got some early breaks and got out to a lead. And
yeah, the coaching staff will be new, I think, next year. And I'm not a huge Dan Campbell fan in one respect, but one thing he does is he keeps his team motivated and he keeps his team engaged. The Lions are a team that's not likely going to have a letdown because of the way the coach's mentality.
They could be a 5 seed like that. I mean, everybody's sitting there anointing the Lions number 1, and they clearly are the class of the NFL at this point. But 1 or 2 bad weeks puts them in the 5 hole in the NFC, and that's a whole different pathway.
Ask Philly how it felt last year.
Exactly.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, that keeps them motivated. I just pray that for those people who are backing the Lions in this game, that they don't you don't need trick plays to beat Chicago. So don't try a halfback option, a punt from your own 12-yard line, an onside kick or something like that. Just go out and play smash mouth football because you're better than the Bears.
Well, they actually consider, some of those, once in a blue moon type plays as part of what they are going to do. So they don't kind of look at them as trick plays, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, it's
Giants, Cowboys. Boy, I would imagine you're on the Giants. At anything over a field goal.
The next time I'm on the Giants, question where I need to be health-wise. I actually have an August ticket on Dallas in this game.
Really?
Yeah. It's a bad situation for the Giants. Usually the August tickets are based on situations. I don't have it in front of me, but I have a couple of tickets like that. No, I probably am going to eat a little too much turkey during this game.
Dallas 0-5 at home this season. hard to believe.
They are 7-0 straight up, 5-2 against the spread. The last 7 hosting the Giants.
Miami and Green Bay. This is pretty darn interesting because I initially thought I would have been on Green Bay, and I don't really have a reason to be on Green Bay. And as best as I can figure out, Miami is actually legitimately playing well, and they've got a tough road to make it to the playoffs, but they might be able to.
Yeah, fascinating game. Probably a cold weather game, but not a snow game. Supposed to be temperatures around 30 or so, dropping to 19. Tried to check that out beforehand.
So does the Tua's never won in a cold weather game fit in the same category as Tomlin's never had a losing season?
No, because wind matters more than coldness. Tua's been in cold weather before. I'm not concerned about that. I mean, I'd be concerned if there was route running issues or if the ball was, such for a person's grip or something like that. I'm going to treat it more as a matchup and situational analysis. And I do have situations that clearly favor one of the teams.
I got a funny feeling I don't know. My instincts tell me Miami might come away with this game somehow. I just think Green Bay's got some holes. And then Dobbs is probably not going to be there. Alexander never's there.
Yeah, it's true. Aaron Jones should be healthy. Dobbs is a miss because he has better hands than Christian Watson. Watson's the speed guy who could do a lot of different things, but he disappears sometimes.
Oh, he didn't disappear when he couldn't catch that wide open pop-up touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he wishes he disappeared. Reed is the reliable guy on their team, and I do expect tight end Kraft to have a bigger game this week than last week.
Raiders, Chiefs. I think Pacheco's coming back. Kansas City's offense actually almost hit 400 yards last week.
Yeah, and they catch a Vegas team that's obviously in a downward spiral. What did I make a note here? Oh, yeah. Las Vegas, their turnover ratio is minus 17. Can't win games that way.
Has Miami beat a team over 500 in the last 3 seasons? That is actually a good point.
Not last year, I know that. That's a good. I don't think this year or last year, so you'd have to go back an extra year for that. That doesn't sound so good for them, huh?
You're going to have to put Alex in the penalty box because they had a strong Green Bay play last week. Actually, I bet him a lot this year. I actually like him. That's why it's kind of unusual. Actually, I'm not sure I bet against them this season, have I?
There's always a first time.
We're going to be combining Inside Blitz Thursday. I see Ted is in the green room. He's flirting with the cocktail waitress there. As soon as he's done there, we'll let him in. Let's see. There he is. How's it going, Ted?
It's great, but you bothered me. The waitress was just about to give me my order. Hey, the good show, guys. I've been listening to some of the last 10 minutes or so, and you're covering everything except for what's important, and that's audio. But I'm kidding. You know that.
Well, we saved your audio. I know you've got some key players that we're going to discuss, and I'm putting you and Cris and everybody who's watching on the spot because I'm going to go play a little game show, Contender or Pretender, and we're going to go over some teams, and we're going to reach a consensus one way or another.
When you want to do that,
I want to say hi to everybody out there who's saying hello to me. I appreciate it. Let's have some fun, boy. I was hustling my ass off the last 2 nights, guys. It's the first time I found this out by accident. It's the first time we've had back-to-back night games at SoFi Stadium. Excuse me. So I never went to the home locker room. I was just running around the visitors' locker room both nights and trying to get the best. And I got what I could get, guys.
Well, you got some good ones this week. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
So I have a question for you, Ted.
Yeah.
Back-to-back games, and you know that, let's see, who played. So the Ravens are in town, and obviously the Chargers are in town. Do you think that any of the players or coaches go to the game on Sunday night, the ones that are playing on Monday?
You know, that is a very good question. And I heard that one or two of the Ravens were there, but I don't know if it's true. Very good question. Why not? I mean, you know, they probably can get a pass, right? Just get in and hang out at the sidelines or whatever. But I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because the Ravens may never have played in that stadium. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But
yeah, I don't think
why
so.
not get a feel?
I mentioned something to Lamar as he walked past me in the locker room. I said, "Hey, I haven't seen you since the Coliseum when you guys scored over 100 points in that game." You know, the two teams. Remember in the Monday night game that was supposed to be in Mexico. I think that's the last time they were here. I think. Anyway.
Well, we may not know what they're doing before the game, but if we check the DUI roster rules, we know what they're doing after the games.
Yeah, that's not good. Not good at all. Yeah. Absolutely. But anyways, it was really good to see two elite teams come into town, and they're both playing very, very well. Despite what Baltimore did the previous week, overall, they're an elite club right now. And you know, with their offense, I think the number was they're averaging 7 yards a play this year, which is just ridiculous. It'll be an all-time NFL record if it sticks.
Yeah, I mean, the addition of Henry to take the fourth quarter burden off Lamar Jackson, they hope that's the missing piece in the playoffs.
Yep.
It makes a huge difference. I still can't, you know, when you're looking at those records underneath the score, I'm like, how the hell do they lose 4 games? I mean, it just seems absurd. They would have 4 losses.
Yeah. Well, you can blame it on John Harbaugh. We usually do.
Yeah, I didn't like his. Well, we'll talk Baltimore later. Let's Tennessee, Washington. You know, a week ago the look ahead line was 8. We're down to what, 5.5 now. What do you think on this one, Ron?
Yeah, my line is 5.5, so we're right there. Washington's the kind of team, and I guess I should have realized it last week, but Dallas wasn't on my radar screen. But you don't want to trust. I mentioned this. We don't want to trust a team with that defense as a favorite of significant points. Now, this isn't 10.5, but 7 would have been really significant. You're asking that defense to close out a game, and I don't think they can. Now, Tennessee, this is very likely not a game that I'm going to be looking at. But if I was looking at it, I would look at Tennessee, just because you get points and I don't trust Washington's defense.
Well, Daniels doesn't use his receivers very much, and Tennessee just had a shutdown run defense last week. Where's that going to leave Washington moving the ball this week?
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats here. You mentioned number 2 receiver. There really isn't a number 2 receiver for Washington. They have about 7 or 8 other guys that they throw the ball to, but it's really McLaurin. And if you can shut McLaurin down, then it changes the dynamics of trying to go deeper.
Yeah, it's scary, Terry, and the rest is scary.
Yeah. McLaurin ended up with a good game. I mean, he tried to keep him in the game with some late game heroics.
Yep.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what Washington shows up this week, because that was just abysmal. I've got to imagine that they come out pretty darn strong.
They're one of those teams. They have to play clean to really get W's. Because they're not deep in anything, and but if they play clean and the way Daniels has played, and he threw a pick 6 this past week, right?
Yeah. I think so. I don't remember.
I think so. But anyway, I know he was intercepted, and they had a couple of bad turnovers, and that's a team that cannot afford to do that. So if they just play clean, I think their defense is decent enough.
Yeah, Will Levis, and you have to worry about turnovers. He's cut it down a little bit, but it is minus 12 for Tennessee this season. So if there's going to be a turnover winner in this game, I think it'll be Washington.
Did I hear Levis was sacked 9 times last week?
That I didn't catch. I could tell you, though, that he was perfect. I think he was 9 for 9 or 11 for 11 to start the game. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, so when's the pick 6 coming? And then it happened. He's amazing.
Was it? You said it was Tennessee that was sacked 9 times?
Yeah.
I never looked at the stats.
Yeah. 8 times, I think. But yeah, this is the thing, and you've heard me say this. Other people have heard me say this. If you're sack prone in college, Danny DeVito or Tommy DeVito, whatever you want to say, Daniel Jones, and so on. Will Levis was sack prone in college. Those things just tend not to go away.
I do that kickoff return from Turbin might be the coolest thing I've seen in football, period. I mean, that was just bizarre.
Yeah, it really was. And happy Thanksgiving to Birdie, and tell your wife, make sure she has the birdie cooked enough for on Thursday.
Birdie can't let his wife know he watches football still. I forgot. Chargers Atlanta. I don't know what it is, but this game just looks really cool, and I think the line is off. What do you guys think?
Well, I think if we don't know if J.K. Dobbins is playing, I'm not going to have an opinion until I know, because I don't know how the hell they're going to run the ball. Gus Edwards is not going to be your number one running back to be effective. So I have to know the health of him.
Yeah, I think Gus only makes a good field goal kicker, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, we'll see. Atlanta's had a week off. So you got one team with 14 days, the other team with 6 days. What Atlanta, of course, has to do is figure out a way to get to the quarterback. I mentioned on a different show this morning that we're looking at probably roughly 42 to 43 average number of sacks per team. Atlanta has 10 sacks in 11 games.
Wow, that's pitiful.
What do you Atlanta really backed into their bye. I have them second from the bottom over the previous 5 weeks. So they were in a tailspin. What do you think they can get out of that break?
Well, they could possibly change their defensive scheme, which probably won't happen. But if I were there, if they didn't change their defensive scheme, I'd make them run 40 laps or something like that. I think Cousins just gets more familiarity with his receivers. I think it's a good break for the offense. But the defense, the biggest break for Atlanta is the fact that the Chargers just came off the Harbaugh Bowl, and it was a deflating defeat for the coaching staff.
And something I mentioned last week about the Chargers D, I think they proved what I thought. They've now allowed 57 points in the last 2 games against good offenses. Before that, number one defense in the league against very average to below average offenses. And so the cream is rising to the top, and the rest is dumping.
Another team with an easier schedule out of the conference and stuff like that. But the thing about the Chargers is if you can't pass, if you have a quarterback that's pretty average, the Chargers will eat them up under the Jim Harbaugh reign.
Right.
But if you have a quarterback such as Kirk Cousins and obviously Lamar Jackson and so on, then they're not there yet.
Right. Exactly. And I think that Jim Harbaugh said it last night after the game that, we are progressing. We're a work in progress in a very positive way, but they're not there, and they're not going to be there. Not this year. They need more players. So when it happens in the next year, we'll see what they do. And they get a few free agents. They have got to get some kind of a playmaker on offense. So they have to.
Well, yeah, I think everybody's. If the season ended now, Charger fans would be ecstatic. Just he's ahead of the curve on what
Right.
he's been able to do. So, and a coach like that's able to attract free agents for a little bit of a discount, possibly. And if they do have a
Right.
good draft, they could be right there.
Well, it might be just like college guys want to play for Harbaugh. Maybe we'll see who's available and who might want to sign in LA. Remember, they are 1-4 against teams above 500 this year, and that's your
Well,
story. They're
it's
just
better
not
than
quite good
Miami,
enough.
isn't it?
What's that?
It's better than Miami, right?
Yeah, that, whatever that's worth. Doesn't get you much for the playoffs, though.
Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. This one's going to be a banger.
Yep.
Daytime game. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I'm really behind on injuries and weather this week.
I'll tell you if it's going to be an issue. I did mark that on my sheet. Cincinnati, 29 degrees in Cincy. So it's going to be cold, but no other weather.
Yeah. I figure a split in the series one way, shape, or form.
They haven't played. This is their
first one.
Oh, so we got 2 cold games probably coming up.
Yeah, but these teams are used to it.
Of course.
So Pittsburgh's on extra rest, though, right?
Well, they both have had rest since he's off a bye.
I remember my chat last week with Teddy Karras. A 10% chance to make the playoffs is better than nothing. That's what they got left. Might be less than that now. I didn't look at it.
I have it at 12.
Oh, 12. Wow, that'll help.
It improved.
They better win, baby. That's all I could say.
I think this line's just going to teeter between. I think it'll be a week 3 more than it'll be a strong 2.5. Would you see any line movement on this?
Yeah, I think this is about where it ends up. Cincinnati, I don't think there's enough trust in the Cincinnati defense to say, hey, let's start going against the Steelers.
Yeah.
Where did you have this line, Ron?
2.5.
I don't
right
know
on it.
I don't know where you come up with these numbers.
I don't know. 43 years of doing it. I think. I guess I know how to put the numbers up, except for when there's massive injuries. Then you just.
The only problem with the 43 years, you have like over-unders for Johnny Unitas still. You got to get that off your page.
No, sorry, missed his stuff.
Indianapolis, New England, is this just off your board this week? Are you really excited about it?
Oh yeah, I'm really excited about a game like this. Yeah, I can't wait. I had Indy as a little bit less of a favorite, but I will say New England has not had their new coach bye week yet, so there's got to be some fatigue coming in with New England. The only fatigue in Indy is they can't be fatigued either because they never guard anybody on defense. I mean, we're talking about they're 73% or whatever their number is allowing through the air. I mean, how do teams get away with not guard? I mean, why do they run such soft schemes?
Yeah, well, I think they're partially fatigued from having the coach have them run laps, but besides that, they got some issues.
Yeah. Indianapolis went nearly the entire game without converting a first down, didn't they?
What was he? Something like 8 out of 22, Richardson. He's just not getting the job done. And a lot of people, including Russell and others, Dan Rivera. I mean, they've been high occasionally on Indy and low on Indy. Yeah. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride, and we don't know whether or not they're going to change their GM, whether they're going to change their coach, whether they're going to buy into Richardson for next year. There's so much uncertainty about Indy right now, and part of them has to feel they're still in the playoff picture because Houston isn't putting it away.
Well, Richardson completed 51% of his passes. That's pretty much what he was doing coming into the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was like 44%.
Oh, so he's getting good.
Yeah, that's just not NFL worthy. So
No.
that's a problem. And there are teams within the division that they play and New England this week that do not defend the pass all that well. So it's extra bothersome when you're in a soft division and you're still not putting up the numbers.
Well, Jacksonville probably gets back Lawrence. The coach is 1 foot out the door. They're slotted as the number 1 draft pick. What team shows up with what motivation?
Yeah, I didn't set a line on this game because I didn't know whether he'd show up, whether the coach would show up, whether anybody would show up. So I have nothing for you.
Yeah, I mean, how do you have a line if you don't even know if he's playing, right? I mean, it's just too many question marks.
Maybe the better question is what Houston team shows up. I guess you kind of summed it up. Is there a 7-5 team that has looked like a 7-5 team at best, right?
Yeah. I mean, their power rating is it's still probably in the 13 to 15 range for me. And part of me says, yeah, they have the coaching, they have some good weapons in a lot of places. And part of me says, why is it that high? Because it just seems like they're barely winning.
Yeah, well, one of the things about Houston is that first place schedule. Remember, that's a hard thing to do when all of a sudden in 1 year you become a really good team, and now you got to prove it next year. And that's what they're dealing with right now. But they got an easy schedule this week. No excuses.
Yeah. And they have 4 primetime games this year and none last year.
Ooh.
Ted, you're going to have to think of a Robinson or Al Davis story for the end of the show, okay?
Okay. I got a good Al Davis story for you.
Arizona, Minnesota. Now, this one's really interesting. These teams in Minnesota, when they play, have had some really bizarre games, very high scoring. So I just kind of had that embedded in my thinking that it's going to be another shootout some way, somehow.
Yeah. I have to spend more time on this game. I have to spend more time on Arizona. This is the first of 3 straight Minnesota home games. I think they feel really comfortable where they are because, they've had some chances to slip this year. Remember, 2 years ago, they won every one-score game. And last year, they were on the wrong side of it. And this year, it seems like they're getting back to being on the right side of it.
Well, they come back for some home cooking after a 3-game road trip, and they're home for a month. I don't think they go anywhere till after Christmas.
Yeah, would you have said that they'd have a 4-game winning streak going in right now?
Is that what they have? See, that's even the fact that I didn't even know.
Yeah, I mean, that tells you a lot, though, doesn't it? That they were able to get through that stretch, and now this is the real stretch of the season. You got to do something.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That is actually. I mean,
it's Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Chicago, but they were all on the road.
Exactly. I mean, they were 4. Remember, we talked about that last week. At least the 3 road games weren't the tough teams, but you still got to take care of biz, and they did. Mm-hmm. Even with Sam Darnold throwing the ball to wide open people in the 5th row, it still doesn't matter.
Seahawks, Jets. Rodgers says he wants to be a Jet, but they're going to boot his ass some way, somehow.
Who knows what's going to happen there? As long
nobody's happy with Rodgers. Do they come out and play anymore?
It's West Side Story. When you're a Jet, you're a Jet, you're a Jet. Is that what it is?
As long as you have that idiot owner, they're in trouble. What can I tell you? It's just a bad situation.
I think somebody said in the chat that Seattle is actually overall 6-0 at the New York Jets.
Are they going to be 7-0?
Well,
why
that
not?
Remains to be seen. What did you set this line? What would you have set this line at, Chris?
To me, it's a pick 'em.
I have the line. I have it at 2.6.
So you're right about where it should be. Seattle 2.6. All right.
What did it open up?
I think it opened up around 1.
It did. Okay.
Maybe with juice.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but there can't be any money on the Jets, right, from here on.
Bookmaker had opened it at 1. 77% is on the bets are on Seattle so far.
Which figures. That's why it's going to keep moving.
Well, I don't. It can't really go.
No, not much more than this, but I mean, how can you trust anything with the Jets right now? It's a joke.
You know, if you look at them side by side, I know the Jets have had defensive woes. If you look at them side by side, I have the Jets as a better defense.
Well, on paper, they're a great defense, but they lost their best defensive coach. He got fired a few weeks ago. That doesn't help either.
Well, I mean, he's the CEO. He can't spend all his time on the defense, and he wasn't a good CEO. He wasn't a good CEO.
No, but he's a good defensive coordinator, though. I mean, he's not going to let it never got totally away while he was there. Let's put it that way.
Do you agree or disagree, Chris, as far as Seattle or the Jets? Who's the better defense?
I've got the Jets rated a few slots higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's, this is where it starts to get difficult because you have to question motivations and such.
Yeah.
Right.
This Rodgers it's getting to the point of embarrassment at this point. You look at, I heard somebody mention it on one of the shows. You haven't seen a quarterback go out this poorly since Johnny Unitas. So, Ted, you remember that when you were in school, Johnny Unitas?
I actually do. I remember him very well when he played for the Chargers. So he ended his career. And by the way, it's been worse since him because I think Joe Namath ended up with the Rams was even worse.
I was going to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty bad too.
Yeah. That's the one I would have picked out.
Of course, he had no knees, but what are you going to do? Anyway.
Yeah, we won't talk later because this is the show that we're doing, and then it's Thanksgiving and then the games.
Right.
But, boy, if you could put that motivation stuff aside, because the Jets are a head case, Rodgers is a head case, everybody in that organization is a head case. This is a game they should win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Seattle's a better team. Carolina, do you guys think Carolina showed some spunk the last game or two? They're still trying, and that's at least a good sign that you know what you're getting there. But how much do they got?
This will be a good game.
Yeah. Do they really have much of a home field advantage?
Especially I don't know, but Tampa's not a big traveling team, but
right.
It's an average home field advantage at best.
Exactly. So, no, I just like Tampa to win the game, whether they cover. What is it still around 6, 5 or 6?
6, I think.
Yeah, it's 5.5 or 6. What Tampa's going to end up winning this division, aren't they?
They're clearly better than Atlanta. The question is, and the schedule is finally softened up. They just have to stay healthy, and they're not even healthy, but at least they got Evans back.
Yep. Yeah, that's huge.
Oh, let's see these divisional odds. Plus 230 on the Bucks
to win the division. Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know if they may be 0-2 against Atlanta. I have to double check that.
Yeah, definitely got to check that.
Oh, I think that's their problem. The Saints are the ones that are 0-2, aren't they?
And how many more divisional games they have left?
2 or 3.
Huge.
I'm gonna check this out. If I could find my stuff as to what their scores. Got papers all over the place.
In the computer era, he has papers all over the place.
Yeah. I think and write at the same time.
I don't have my divisional standings anywhere. This is
Yeah, Atlanta beat them twice.
Okay.
So, that's a hard thing to overcome.
Yep, absolutely.
Rams and Saints. That's a pretty good, interesting matchup also.
Yeah, so we've done this in the past. We've had this theory in the past. I don't think the bye was great for the Saints. I think you want to keep playing while you had those 2 wins. There wasn't anybody that was necessarily going to get healthy during this time because Chris Olave is probably gone. I don't remember. I think he's on IR. So you want to keep. They played so well against Cleveland, and then they had to sit for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right that they seem to be getting their act a little bit together. But
Yep.
where do you have this line?
I have this line Rams 1 to 1.5, so a little bit lower than what it is.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see some 3s out there. It's mostly 3s. It just seems the real weakness of New Orleans, they can't stop the run, right?
They can't stop the run. And it is a real weakness. It's one of the worst in the league.
Ted, this is going to be your game. You got a lot to say about this game, don't you?
The Rams game?
Baltimore Eagles?
Oh. Yeah, I feel like I'm already there. I've been living with the 2 teams for the last 2 nights. Look, the Eagles are just playing great. Sirianni has stuffed everything I've said about him right down my throat all season long. He's not a head coach. He shouldn't be there. And he's turned things around in a way that I'm still not sure how. I think part of it is, and I actually talked to a couple of NFL insiders at the stadium the last few nights, specifically 2 nights ago, about Sirianni. And the thought is that he has a plan that he's still evolving, and he's not letting his own ego get involved like he did earlier. And I think he might be learning, like to back off at times, let his assistants do their jobs and not be, as Ron put it, the CEO, but not the CEO / Nazi on top of everybody. So I don't know. Again, I'm not there, but he's making me eat my words, and good for him so far. I'll believe it when I see it in the long run. Yeah. 7 straight wins, though. That's pretty damn good. What can I tell you?
Yeah, but what great if they've beaten? I'm sure they played a good team along the way. What's a good team that they played?
You talking about over the last few weeks?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you're not including the Rams.
No, I said a good team.
I know. And by the way, and Brandon Graham is out for the season, triceps injury. So that's not a nice thing there.
Yeah, not too many good teams during the win streak, but a win is a win.
Right, exactly. So, I want to see them in December and what they do. We know what happened last year. The second half of the season was not only a disaster, but Sirianni's lucky to still have his job. So, hey, he's turned it around. Let's see what they do in the last several weeks.
I mean, they've faced they've pretty much run the table on all the worst defenses in the league. Yeah. I mean, seriously, this is incredulous. The Rams, Washington, Cowboys, Jaguars, Bengals, Browns, Giants. I mean, the Giants had the best defense out of there, don't they?
I hope not.
Look, any way you look at it, 7 straight wins is good. But, I mean, what were the chances they could have or should have lost to any of those? Right?
Yeah. I mean, there's always a
easy.
couple of games that
exactly.
can do that.
Right.
Way, but no, they are where they are. And with Washington faltering, they have a little bit better grip on the division right now. And then they can think bigger things.
And they've got Charles Barkley's illegitimate brother, Saquon, who's doing unbelievable stuff. So good, as long as you can lean on him, you're going to be in good shape every game. We'll see what happens.
Philadelphia other than Washington, which we know is a mediocre defense, I've got them right dead in the middle. All those other wins were against bottom 10 defenses.
So it'll be interesting this week against Baltimore. Baltimore at home, but obviously they're traveling back cross country off the Harbaugh Bowl. So Philadelphia will have a little bit of a rest advantage.
Yep. Travel and short week. That's not a good combo there.
Introduce your audio here.
Okay. I think Ron had something he wanted to.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, we're talking to Eagles, so let's start with the Eagles and Saquon coming off the unbelievable game. But if you watched both of his 70+ yard runs, it was like I think I could have run those even at my age if I wasn't touched. I mean, that helps. And I joked with all of them about it, but it was true. The blocking was ridiculously good. He made one move and then he is gone. So, credit all of them, obviously. Let's hear from Saquon himself after 302 scrimmage yards. And he didn't know that until I told him.
Not going to lie. I looked up and I saw I was at 173. And I said, I wish I never saw that. And it worked. But, again, I'm a big believer in if it happens, it happens. Let it come to you. It was 4 minutes. We were trying to put the game away. I did look up one time to see a replay of the run, and I saw that where I was at, and I literally said to myself, I wish I never saw that, because you don't want that's just the devil talking. That's just how I look at it. So just kept my head down and just kept trusting the system, and we popped a long one.
Well, the two big ones. Any bigger holes you've ever seen in your life?
No, these guys here are amazing. They make my job a lot easier. I'm probably going to get a lot of credit, and everyone's going to say this and say that, but in reality, the beauty of this game is it's a team game. And my favorite quote that Nick always says, it's hard to be great without the greatness of others. And those guys and the tight ends and the wide receivers blocking down the field are super amazing.
But is there a championship vibe in this room right now, though?
I've never been in one, so I don't really know what that feels like.
I love it.
I guess that's a blessing in disguise. But we have a great group of guys here, and we have guys that played in the Super Bowl, that won it, BG and Lane, and a couple guys that played in 2022. But we're not even worried about that, to be honest. We're not even focused on that. That's so far ahead of us. And you can't get caught in that. You got to get caught. You got to get locked into how consistent can we be, and taking it week at a time. But like I said, it's a team sport. And if you told me that I could have the year I'm having and win an MVP but not win a Super Bowl, or I could have the year I'm having and not win MVP or Offensive Player of the Year and win a Super Bowl, I'm gonna take the other one. Take it one day at a time. Be consistent. That was my whole mantra this offseason and this season. How consistent I can be day to day, and whether I rush for 250 yards or I rush for 50 yards, still come in on Monday, do the same thing, still have my routine on Tuesday, Wednesday, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's something that's my trainer, Ryan Flaherty, challenged me, or basically my mentor challenged me to do. And he's been blessed and fortunate enough to be with a lot of greats, and Serena and the Kobe's of the world, and I'll be a fool not to listen to him. So my story it's not finished, and it's going to keep going, and when the season's all said and done, we'll look back and smile and be happy with the things that I did or things I didn't do. But right now, we just get ready for on this flight, get some good sleep, get rest and recover, and get on Monday and try to get a little lift in and massage.
Is it coincidence they're drug testing after game?
No, that's not me. Dallas tried to put a prank on me. This is actually guys.
This was a drug test note above his locker.
So, hopefully I get away from that for a little bit.
So 302, is that going to mean something special for the rest of your life, the total amount of yards in this game?
I did not know that.
Now you
302.
Not too bad, huh?
Yeah, not too shabby. Nah, it's cool. I don't think this is the first time I ever had 300 yards in my life.
It is.
It is?
You're the 270.
I ain't doing New York against Washington.
279.
There you go.
So, yeah, I mean, that's big. But like I said, you can't do it alone. I'm surrounded by great players, and if you look at every single play that I made today, you can see so many other players going above and beyond for me.
Congratulations. Enjoy.
I'm not going to lie.
Anyway, great. That was really, really revealing. And you know what? He is thorough. He's thoughtful. And I was totally impressed with it. It's the first time I've ever dealt with him or met him. And I like the guy even more than ever.
I was struck that his response is kind of indicated to me that there isn't anything special floating in the locker room. Just the way he said that, it kind of tells me that it's business as usual. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Did you get that sense, Ron?
My sense is that the whole team, the whole organization is such that they were here in this spot last year and didn't finish. And now they want to finish. So there's more job to do.
Yep. I think whoever was there last year, a 7-game winning streak means 0 to them. Absolutely nothing the way they started the year. Let's hear from tight end Dallas Goedert, who I got in front of his locker, and he talked a lot about Barkley.
The O-line, they do a tremendous job. Anytime we get to run the ball, they love it. So being an extension of that is pretty cool. Grant, CJ blocked really well today as well. But, I'm blocking my guy, and next thing you know, out of the preps, I see Saquon going. So I'd let go of my guy and just watch, because you never know what he's going to do. It's always going to be special, and having a front row seat, too, is pretty sweet. And for someone to have 255 or whatever he had on the ground is incredible. It's a lot of fun, and you just keep grinding because you never know when the big one's going to pop.
Pretty big holes there, too, right?
Man.
For both of them.
Yeah, he does a great job of reading his cues, setting up the linebackers. People think they know what he's going to do, but he can stick his foot in the ground. I mean, for a running back to have size, power, speed, elusiveness, he's got it all, and it's fun to be on the same side as him.
What's the vibe in the room right now with a 7-game winning streak?
Kind of what Coach said. We've won a lot of games the last few years and haven't done the big deal. So, we got to keep our head down. Coach said, we haven't really accomplished anything this year. There's a lot of season left, so we just got to keep our head down, keep working. I think we can keep climbing. We can even be better than we were today. So, it's just that mentality the rest of the way.
Is there an MVP thought about him in this room?
MVP, I know we got a lot of great players on this team, but he's up there for most valuable on our team. He makes special plays nonstop, makes everybody's job easier. I don't get a vote, but if I was voting, I'd vote for him.
I don't get caught up in MVP stuff. I really could care less. But that was the talk around the room, not with the players, with the media asking them. I mean, that's the new thing. I guess he's an MVP candidate. Why not, right?
But your comments before are the exact same comments I made last week. Is look at these giant holes he's running through for 70, 80 yards. It's not that I'm not impressed by what he's doing this year, but he's got some great blocking that are making him look pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, just think they don't have Kelsey anymore, and they're still a great O-line.
No.
That's bottom line. You want to hear from Jalen Hurts next? Even more on Saquon's importance to the Eagles. You talk about a guy that I'm impressed with. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts after meeting him. Go ahead.
Jalen, describe what you saw from 26 today and what your O-line did to open up holes like the size of clouds were parting.
Yeah, he's a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player, and I said that. After the Jacksonville game, and how blessed he is to do some of the things he's capable of, and you accompany that. When you accompany an issue with other issues, you become a problem. And then I think we've got a lot of talent on our team, but I think we're a force when we're all together, and I think that's evident out there. When we can find our rhythm and how we play and feed off of one another and he set the tone for us, especially at the end. I think even these last few weeks, we've had some of those games where they kind of played out different as the course of the game, but you think about these 4-minute situations where he takes it over, you know. And I think back to, and I told Saquon this, I think back to moments where we may have lost a game in the past, or maybe mismanaged a 4-minute situation where he's truly making things easier for us when it comes to how we handle 4-minute situations because of his capabilities, even with a loaded box, being able to hit a home run. So it's a big-time play from him.
Yeah, there you go. And I think what Jalen Hurts was stressing there is they're a different team with Barkley because they can do stuff they could not do before. And he gets them out of tough jams, especially in the second half of games. And it's just a huge difference, you know?
Yeah, and you're talking about Barkley, and you could say the same thing about Henry in Baltimore. There's an added dimension. I know. And there's an added dimension to both teams that make both teams scary when the weather turns.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, you know, if they didn't even play them for the next several weeks and save them for the last 2 weeks of the season and the postseason, it may not be a bad idea as long as they can squeeze in, because that's what they're there for. You know, they're there for December and January.
You've got some. You've got something with Andrews and Henry. Why don't we run those audios?
Okay, let's go first with. I'll tell you what. Let's first hear from Justice Hill real quick, because he had a good comment about Henry's impact, just what we talked about on the club.
He's a pro. He's a tough runner. He's a great running back, great player, great teammate. And so when you combine all those things, man, it's no product but success, you know. And so he just does all the right things, and so it's a product of it.
Describe the wear down factor between you and Derek and how that works throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, I let him do most of the wearing down, and then I'll come here to do a little something after. But, man, he's a great teammate to have, man. And, man, we just got a long way to go, and we're just going to continue to win. So.
Isn't that something, though, that most people don't talk about enough? Because that really does make a big difference when you go into the second half.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, nobody wants to stand in front of that every single play, every single run. Like, you can do it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, but when you got to do it 20, 25 times, you start to wear down. And so I'm glad we stuck with the run game this game, and it played off for us.
How about the stretch right now? The importance of getting this win, and it's so tight with the race that you guys are in.
Yeah. I mean, when you get to this time of the year, getting close to December is always tough battles, and I mean, this is what you train for. You train for in the spring, train for in the summer, and the moments are here. And so we're going to continue to rise during those big games and come out victorious.
Is there a running back revival in the league at this point?
Oh, I don't think we ever went away, but but I guess, I mean, you could say that. But those guys are having tremendous years. It's going to be fun to see how the end of the year shakes out, who has the most, whatever. But and they've been doing a great job and putting on for all the running backs throughout the league. And so they're special guys, special players, unique skill sets, and yeah, man, they're awesome players. He's a pro. He's a tough runner. He's a great running back, great player, great teammate. And so when you combine all those things, man.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, that's Justice Hill, who had himself a 51-yard touchdown run yesterday. You know, he broke in the clear and he was gone on that play. But nice combination there. You got a little speedster, and you got Derrick Henry looked like a maniac last night. I mean, he was stiff-arming. He almost stiff-armed me, and I was 3 levels above him. I mean, the guy was unbelievable, a total battering ram, and just unbelievably impressive. Let's hear from tight end Mark Andrews after the win over the Bolts.
It's huge. If we can get Derek going, it feeds off everything else. And he's so talented, and our line is playing incredibly well. And for us to be able to get the run game going and get him, kind of rolling was awesome for us. Being down 10 early, and there was just belief, belief that we're going to get things going and get things rolling. And we got so many playmakers that are able to step up, make big plays when they matter. And it was just countless today of guys making big time plays, big time catches, big time runs over and over to advance the ball. Vibes are great. Vibes are great. I think the beautiful thing about being here is that there's so many talented players, and we know that we can be better, and we're going to be better, and we're just trying to hit our stride at the right time, and guys are happy, but we're focused on getting better.
The wear down factor of Derek and how it affects every single game, and it's something that a lot of teams don't really talk about.
He's just persistent, man. He's so good and so talented. If not the greatest of all time to do what he does, and to have him on our field with 8 and 22, it's dynamic, and just being there for those guys and getting that run game going. He's just an incredible player. It's huge. If we can get Derek going, it feeds off everything else.
That's it for Mark Andrews. And let's hear from Derrick Henry with a little ground domination of the Chargers.
I still think they're a solid defense from top to bottom. Did a great job today. I know we were the better team, but still respect to those guys. They played hard, they played physical, and I think they'll still be in the playoff picture. They're a great team.
Derek, usually you're the one getting the ball on those 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, whatever it is. What's it like to be pushing on Mark's snap on that 4th and 1?
3 for 3 on 4th downs.
I told Mark, I'm gonna put shit at you. So better be ready. Finna get this. So he said something to me. So I felt you. I said, you did it right. So make sure we got it. But yeah, great job everybody blocking. And I had to give him a shove for us to get it.
Derek, your specialty is the wear down factor. How much did you notice that being a big part of this game, especially in the second half?
No, I don't think I'll pay attention to the wear down part. I just can tell when we're in the rhythm and we're stringing plays together, and everybody's doing a great job in the run game for us to have success. And that's a good feeling when you have things like that. Like I said, this is a great defense. So, our offensive line, everybody who blocking did a great job for us to have success in the run game.
And how about that running back competition with you and Saquon?
Yeah, well, first of all, Saquon, slow your ass down. Damn. But nah, he's a hell of a player, man. They're a hell of a team. They've been doing a great job as a team. How many games they won? Like 9 straight, I think, or something like that. But as far as running backs, man, we just want to go out there and do our job effectively, show that the position matters, and hopefully, we've been doing that well enough to add value for the future of this position and the guys that's coming up to getting paid. And it's a great time for us to be able to have success, and hopefully it bounces off to the other guys that are coming up and get an opportunity to get paid.
Speaking of Saquon, you got him next. What's going on in this room as far as the vibes and where you guys stand at this stage?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we won a great win. I got a great win against a great team, and got a short week, got to play Sunday. So enjoy this for a little bit and then get ready for that for those guys. They're a great team as well. So, like every week, we got a tough opponent. So, we got to make sure we locked in and execute, get our bodies back under us, be ready for Sunday.
What's the Thanksgiving plans?
Eat and get ready for Sunday. Not too much. I can't eat too much. We got that game Sunday. Turkey, all of it, everything. Hell yeah. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Enjoy.
There you go, Derrick Henry. He was obviously in a great mood, and no reason not to be. To me, what do you guys think? I mean, when they signed him this year, it was like, okay, well, he hasn't really been Derrick Henry for quite a while, and all of a sudden he is again.
Well, I think he hit the point where he realized if he didn't change, he was kind of fading a little bit. And his off-season workouts were something to marvel at. The guy was a brick shithouse. And he just seems intent on doing the best he can. And, I found his answer to wearing down, he didn't respond to that. Which kind of indicates that that's not the focus. It's, hey, we're putting the plays together. We're
right.
It's not a matter of being tired. We're putting plays out. And bodes pretty well for their attitude.
It does. And by the way, that's a question that I usually will shoot out to the rest of his teammates. But I wanted to get his thoughts too, because that's That's what he is. He just beats the crap out of you all game. And by the fourth quarter, it's like, I don't want to see this guy anymore.
Ron, what do you have to say on this game before we go on to your contenders?
No, it's going to be a good game. It's interesting that both running backs go against each other. It could be, both of them are in the MVP mix. It's usually a quarterback award. So if somebody stands out in this game, it's going to give one of them an edge. So more important than that, they want to prove that they're better than their other team there. Right now, Baltimore is nowhere near the number 1 seed, not even winning their division, and Philadelphia is the number 2 seed. So they have more to prove than just this one game.
Yeah, big time. By the way, I really like what Henry said about establishing the importance that the runners still mean a lot to the teams. And if you get a good one who can make a difference, these guys are still going to get paid and still going to be relevant. And that's really important.
Yeah, there's been a resurgence in the running back position as far as equating to win value, but it only applies to the top 3 to 5 players. And it just happens these are 2 of them.
Right. Yeah. And the top, but they all were like, they're making comebacks, every one of them, though. They're not coming off great seasons. They're just making it look like they've turned the clock back and they're great again, which is awesome.
It reminds me way back of Marshall Falk or whatever. Guys like that, or even the guy on Denver, I can't remember his name. He had a short career, but he played with John Elway. Marshall Falk played with the greatest show on turf.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the running back can't do it alone. O.J. Simpson didn't do it alone in Buffalo. They barely made the playoffs. So Barry Sanders is another example.
Right.
They're great running backs, but to get over the hump and win a Super Bowl, it's more than that.
Right. But Terrell Davis is a great example the opposite way to me, because the Broncos had no chance to win those games without him. He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was the end of
ball.
I pointed out either the beginning of last year or the end of the previous year that the Lions were kind of doing something different, and because they were utilizing running backs more than almost every other team in the NFL, and that was opening up their passing game. You have to keep the defenses honest on both sides of the ball. And I think that they were at the forefront of the shift back to running back importance.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice to have 2 running backs that have completely different styles, but either one could be a number 1 on a different team. But the fact that they're on this team makes it harder to prepare for them.
Yep.
Okay, contender or pretender. This is audience participation too. I probably should have done this at the beginning of the show when we had more audience, but alphabetical order. You guys can chime in on your response. Arizona, contender or pretender?
Pretender.
Ted?
Pretender.
Okay. Audience. Arizona, contender or pretender?
And by the way, I
have them in the pretender role as well.
They need to be more consistent, and they're another team. They're just coming up. They're not ready yet.
Number 2, Cincinnati, contender or pretender?
Pretender.
They're not even pretending. No, that's next year.
So I'm erring on the side of possible contender. If this is their bye week, I want to see what their defense is made of. But I think they could go on a mini run. So I'm erring just a little bit more positive on them.
By the way, if they do go on a mini run, that's not going to be enough with a 12% chance of making it. They need to go on a major run.
Not Super Bowl contender, but playoff, legitimate playoff team, not just playoff contender. This is, I should have prefaced it, legitimate playoff team.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Third team, Green Bay, legitimate playoff team. Yes or no?
Yeah.
I think they are yeah.
So we have agreement on Green Bay, pending the audience, that Green Bay is a legitimate playoff team. Right. Miami Dolphins, legitimate playoff team, 3-game winning streak. Yes or no?
They're playoff ready right now, but they've just got such an uphill battle. I say no.
I agree. I think if it's a shame that they didn't have an extra win in their pocket.
And whose fault was
I
that?
can't get any standings up, but it's
Yeah.
They basically have to run the table, don't they?
They're a game and a half behind anybody in terms of the 7th seed and stuff like that, chasing the Chargers, chasing the Ravens right now, chasing Denver. So they have to get hot, which is possible with Tue and so on. But even if they were close in the standings, I actually still have them more in the pretender role because I still don't trust their defense.
Yep, makes sense.
And their offensive line at times as well. Seattle Seahawks, legitimate playoff contender or not?
Aren't they leading the division?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Seattle is tied for the lead, but they have the tiebreakers right now.
Right. If they were in a different division, I would say no. But in this division, everybody's a contender.
But are they a legitimate contender?
Yes, absolutely.
And Seattle is the third most improving team defensively. So I don't know whether you picked up on that. The defense is getting better.
Against who is what I want to know.
No, but you're right, because they had the bye week and they were able to reset. Yeah, those were good points.
Yeah.
I have them as a pretender because I think you're still going to see this staff and the lack of linebacker play and some concerns along the offensive line. And even Geno Smith runs hot and cold. I think there's just too much volatility. So I do not have them as a legit playoff. I mean, they may make it. They may back in. Somebody may back in. But I do not have them as a legit. 2 more. Tampa Bay, legit playoff contender, yes or no?
Yes.
They're legit to win their division.
Well, that's a playoff.
Yeah.
That's all they need.
I have them legit. They've shorn up their run D. They still have issues with personnel defensively, a couple of offensive line injuries. But I'm telling you, Baker Mayfield is playing out of his mind.
Yeah, and even when he's not playing great, they still find pretty good ways to. It's very important they got Evans back, so that helps a ton.
Yeah, I have them absolutely legit. Their running game has improved. Baker Mayfield hasn't had a bad game, really. It's just amazing. One more team, kind of an interesting one to close this out alphabetically. Washington. Now that they're on the slide, boy, they look good early, but are they? We're not asking if they could beat Philly in the division. Are they legitimate playoff contenders?
How far are they? Where are they right now in the seeds?
Probably 7th.
Okay, so they're barely in.
Yeah, there's a whole mess. I mean, they got Green Bay and Minnesota to contend with, and I think they would be 7th. I believe they're 7th because there's a little gap after that, but Washington is slipping right now.
Right. I got 2 ways of looking at it. The defense I'm not impressed with, but I still think Jaden Daniels is going to keep getting better, and I'm going to go a soft yes. What about you, Chris?
Wow, I didn't realize they were down to 7-5 now.
Yeah.
7-2 to 7-5. They've had these 3 tough losses.
Yep.
You know what? I think that they are legitimate because, they're running on fumes at this point. They haven't had their bye this year. They need to get by. They've got it next week. Get by Tennessee, get some rest, and then you're facing the Saints, Falcons, Cowboys. Your tough game is against the Eagles, where you control your destiny.
Yeah, so this is the week. If they win this game, I think they're in the playoffs because it's perfect. They get the bye, and then they got a pretty soft schedule the rest of the way.
Yeah, so I think they can make the playoffs yet still not be a legitimate playoff team because I think there's too many holes. They may make the playoffs, but I think because they caught Dallas in a really off year, although they didn't beat them, and and the Giants are the Giants, and Washington has the other easy part of the schedule, and everybody's feeling great. Daniel Snyder's not there or whatever, but it's a long season for these guys, these college guys, and I think they're going to be on fumes by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Ron, you cannot poo-poo Washington if they make the playoffs for one simple reason. They won't win the division if they're in the playoffs. So they damn well did earn their spot in the NFC. I mean, it's not like they're the Atlanta or Tampa by default.
That's true. And I think Ron has an assignment, by the way, because I'm not doing it. When the season is over, the regular season's over, and if Washington's in, your assignment, not mine, is to call the coach and the owner and say you're not a legitimate playoff team. but they're in. But they're in it.
No, they don't. Everything they accomplished this year is gravy compared to last year. They know they're on an upward trajectory. This is like the Chargers. The culture has changed. The coaching has changed.
And
everything
Arizona
is moving to a direction where if they build on a second, the Chargers had finally an outstanding draft.
Yep.
If they make it a second outstanding draft, if Washington makes it an outstanding roster building second draft, with Daniels there, with Herbert there, there's a lot to build on. So this is just like gravy what they accomplished this year.
Yeah, can you imagine the trade for Daniel Snyder for Jaden Daniels? That was a really good trade.
Yeah, and you can use that gravy on Thanksgiving too, even though Washington won't be playing this Thanksgiving, but they did make a couple of mistakes against Dallas, and so they're still feeling everything we've talked about with these teams: Seattle, Arizona, Washington. They're still feeling things out. That's why I thought it would be interesting to hear different perspectives on contender pretender.
Well, and Jerry Betts brings up Lattimore. We haven't seen him play for Washington yet. Now they get the bye week, and they get a few weeks before the end of the season to work them in. If Washington's in the playoffs, I think that they could do some damage, possibly. Atlanta's not going to do any damage if they make the playoffs. So
no, Lattimore's a huge addition, but we don't know when he's playing. They didn't even say he's playing yet this week, I don't think. So
I think that's a good point. So I may have to change my mind if Lattimore comes in and contributes. So you guys may have caught me on that.
Okay, that's fine. And now you don't have to make that call to the new owner.
If they're the 7th seed, they may actually play a third game against Philly as the 2nd seed.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of familiarity in that series.
Yep.
And your other failure here is you brought up Green Bay, but you didn't bring up Minnesota. You have them in different categories?
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota is because
they're the most underappreciated 2-loss team in the history of the world.
I think Green Bay is better than Minnesota, but I have to give Brian Flores a lot of credit. It takes a long time to learn his system, and his system is really working this year. Darnold has a ceiling. But I'm happy that he got a chance to start and contribute, and he's with a great quarterback type guru head coach, and he's got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So he's in a real sweet spot in terms of the system.
Right.
I sense some bias against Minnesota and Washington in there.
Actually, I have no opinion about them.
I don't even like the timing of the bye for the Vikings right now. To me, I'd rather be playing, but they had to have a bye sometime. So,
relax. Why not? They've got some tough divisional games coming up. A lot of them still have to play the Lions, and you're going to lose some ground. You want to keep ahead of some of these teams,
right?
In order to make sure you make the playoffs. But if the West keeps beating each other up, then we may already know what 7 teams are in the playoffs.
That's true.
Or at least 6 of them plus the West. Tampa, Atlanta could become a conversation. Anybody in the West could, but we may already know the 3 wildcard teams.
Yeah.
So is San Francisco going to go 2 games under 500?
Amazing.
I think they're done. You look at their schedule. I don't know how they could pull this out. Purdy did throw lightly yesterday at practice. We have no idea until later in the week how he's going to come along, if he's even going to play. But they've got injuries to key guys. They're just not in sync. Their defense is not the same. So they're done.
Well, let's say they lose this game to Buffalo, and then let's say they win at home against Chicago.
Okay.
And win at home against the Rams. Then they're 7-7.
Right.
They probably need at least 2 more wins. And here's their last 3 games.
Yeah,
at
not
Miami,
easy.
At Miami, home on Monday Night Football to the Lions, and then short week at Arizona.
Yep. Not easy. I wish them well.
There's a pathway there, but it's not going to be easy. But, playing off of the comment, the NFL is so damn good, bad refs included. Everybody's complaining about the NFL. I actually think we're just getting a little callous to or numb to the great things that we do see on a regular basis because, what receivers are doing and what quarterbacks are doing is the best I've ever seen, bar none. I think the only frustrating thing about watching these games are the frickin' refs, frankly.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, that's what
like the
replay's
comment.
for.
No, I like the comment too. We do kind of get callous about all this. Every time I see 30-something-year-old George Kittle make another tiptoe catch in the end zone, I'm saying that guy is just frankly amazing. And sometimes we complain, oh, that team couldn't score, that team couldn't score. With rules favoring offenses so much, I still like to see great defense.
Yeah, I think we've just never, ever seen such great play. We're getting so used to it. It's the refs, though, that are making these games frustrating because we live in fear of their next call.
Well, I'm still going to disagree with you to a point because what I said last week stands. I think there's a lot of bad football with a lot of incredible individual plays.
Ted, you got to stop watching the New York Giant football channel.
Oh, now you tell me.
And get a new TV.
My TV shows the Giants and the Jets every week. I don't know what to think. I have a New York TV. I don't know what to think.
I think it's painfully evident that Purdy is probably losing a hell of a lot of money this year unless some masterful turnaround for San Francisco occurs, because what does San Francisco do from this point? I mean, you can't pay this guy $50 million.
But you also can't blame it on him. I mean, when
I'm not. It's just
still
situational.
You got to forget about the amount of money, because the amount of money is what it's going to be. It's the market value now, so it doesn't matter. You think, is Dak worth $50 million? I mean, that's the market value now. So you forget about what it is. Yeah. That's just the way it is. It's the length of contract that you got to worry about. The amount of money, it's not my money, so I don't give him $100 million.
Yeah. The salary cap keeps going up, and quarterbacks just take that's why you value these quarterbacks on a rookie contract.
Yep. Should I do my my stories for Toma 888?
Oh, yeah.
Al Davis and John Robinson.
Close on a story.
Okay, we'll start first with John Robinson. I was on the flight on his last game with the Rams. Okay, and it was awful. It was a 10-game losing streak to end the season, and we were in Seattle, and they got their asses kicked. I will never forget the look on his face. He was with his fairly young wife at the time. They got on the flight, and I thought they were going to be throwing up all the way from Seattle to LAX. He was just miserable, and that happened to be his final game with the Rams because he got fired. Georgia Frontiere screwed up the entire organization, and it was all downhill from there. And they ended up moving after St. Louis, her hometown, gave her millions in cash to just take the team out of LA. So that was ridiculous. So that's my John. I worked with John for like more than 15 years at Sports USA. He's a great guy, and we lost him last week. Al Davis, my favorite story about Al, besides the fact, it was sort of my unfavorite, is at the old Coliseum in LA when the Raiders were here. He would make sure he had all of his henchmen with him so we couldn't get on the same elevator, which was the only elevator that worked in the whole building. And he had to get in the elevator alone. Nobody could get near him so he can go downstairs early when we needed to go downstairs. And I had to walk down 50 million flights of stairs to get down to the field level. And Al basically looked at us like, get the hell out of here. You guys have no chance being on the same elevator with me. But I do remember the Tampa Bay blasting of the Raiders in the Super Bowl. Ron remembers it well with John Gruden there. They had the entire offense memorized. Remember that? With Rich Gannon.
That still remains my biggest Super Bowl play ever because the wrong team was favored.
Yeah, Rich Gannon, like what happened to us in this game? And I'm one of literally the last guys left in the building down in San Diego. We're up in the top deck at the old park, and I I'm just wrapping up my work. There's nobody left in the entire building except for the cleanup crew. And here comes Al Davis walking over with George Blanda and Jim Otto, the same guys that always hung out with him up in the press box or in his booth somewhere. And they were calming him down. I couldn't believe how distraught he was. I mean, I thought if he wasn't in good health at that time, he would have collapsed in front of us. And I'm looking up there like, Al, you should have known this was coming, baby. You blew this thing. You know, you let your team spiral into the toilet. And that's exactly what that was the last time they were ever good. That game, the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, I ran across a YouTube video where former players on the Raiders, including Jerry Rice, think the game was fixed. That they intentionally blew the game. And you can find the video on YouTube. I'm not going to say it's true or not true, but they have reasoning based on the idiotic strategy used in that Super Bowl that they weren't trying to win for whatever reason. So.
Well, what was fixed was the Raiders' offense. They didn't do anything. They did exactly what John Gruden knew they were going to do. And that's what was fixed.
Exactly. So.
They didn't change, but that's not fixed. They were just stupid. They didn't adjust anything. There was zero adjustment the entire game.
There's little to no chance that an Al Davis team would ever get involved in that. I mean, it was always just win, baby. But as stubborn as that organization is, there's no way they were going to change the way they did business, and that cost them.
Right. Exactly. It totally cost them. It's like, hey, we are who we are, and we're going to win or lose with it. Well, guess what? You got your asses kicked with it.
Yeah, I mean, that was better team.
All right, it's past my bedtime, so.
Okay, well, it's past my turkey time. Have a great Thanksgiving week, everybody, and thanks for the comments.
Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. We will not be here on Thursday. We will be back a week from today, and good luck to everybody this week.
Fantastic card, so enjoy it.
See ya.